Thank you very much, everyone, for So, here we go. Geography plays an important role in happiness as it shapes our perceptions and feelings about a place. So how do we teach about distant places? The rise in popularity of geography as a subject historically came with the rise in colonization. And geographical tools such as shipbuilding, navigation, and cartography were vitally important to the expansion of the British Empire. So geography plays a critical role in developing an inclusive and diverse, may I say, anti-racist education. But does our present core spec for Higher and National 5 allow for an inclusive geography? Is the terminology we are teaching, developing world, for example, fit for purpose in a contemporary society, dynamic, increasingly globalized, and ever-changing? Perhaps it invites young people to create generalized assumptions of other locations and fails to allow them to explore unique geographies as well as their interrelations and interdependency. A good example of this, I think, you've got some examples over here of the SQA again and the terminology used, and the marking schemes perhaps which are out of date in some units, and the pigeonholing we talked about, physical, human, global. But I think a really good example of what I'm talking about here is population pyramids. Should pupils be explaining population pyramids and other models using generic reasons? They are awarded marks for sweeping reasons for the changing birth rates and death rates, such as good healthcare, availability of excellent sanitation. The problem is that they are invited to formulate generic reasons for changing demographics and then apply these generalized reasons to diverse countries. It's not right. The reasons for why one country has a high life expectancy can be markedly different from another country's set of reasons. So I developed this infographic, which has been you could probably see me on Twitter and looking at all this. Developing an inclusive curriculum. I believe this is a better term than decolonization, because decolonization primarily focuses on untangling power relations. Teachers need to have, and by the way, there's a lot of good practice happening in the country at the moment, and I think we need to be aware of that. But do teachers know how to draw links between the locations they teach about, the case studies they use in the classroom, and the impacts of colonization? Haiti, for example, is a country which we use as a case study when teaching hazards. But are the hazards Haiti is suffering from natural? India and the Green Revolution and the British Raj. Is there enough critiquing of geographical models taking place from a young age, from primary school from S1 BGE? And is fieldwork truly inclusive? I point to the example of a young autistic child. Perhaps fieldwork may be sensory overload for them. Do we have to move away from this masculine image of fieldwork as the Bear Grylls? Geography teachers, I'll be as quick as I can, should ask themselves 3 questions before designing or teaching about a new location to students. Are the different elements of this location meaningfully communicated? How balanced is my view of the location I'm trying to present? For example, are both the problems and positive aspects taught? An example is the favelas in Rio de Janeiro. Are we just presenting a certain image of Africa? What are my own views of the location? Decolonization is a term which we're seeing a lot in the media, in education as well, but I prefer to just look at this term inclusive education and diverse geographies. Decolonizing is just one way of addressing this. It's concerned with the untangling of power relations and structures. Perhaps it points to our curriculum being too Eurocentric. But what we need is actual structural change. And perhaps part of this answer lies in a more diverse workforce. Perhaps we need more subject-specific case study CPD for geography teachers, cross-collaborations, as Professor Muir was pointing out, IDL, a change perhaps in the SQA terminology used in examinations. MEDC and LEDC might be a step up in the right direction. I point to the recent National 5 Farm Rural Affairs question, which presented the world in 2 different lights. The developed world and the developing world. My native country, India, we don't just use donkeys and tractors, where drones are up and coming in many farms there. So a thorough review of the current certificated courses is required. if we want to develop, if we want to think about the kind of geographers we want to produce for the future.